All right, Free Radicals, welcome back. My name is Dave, and I am the Radical Independent. Thank you for watching this channel. A little bit of a different setup here as we continue to kind of tweak my presentation to some degree. Of course, some of you know I do this, and I also have a music-based channel, so I tend to spend a little bit more time doing the music videos because those things apparently are more important to people than politics. And it's a little, I guess, disturbing and discouraging and so forth, but you know, we continue to carry on with the channel. I wanted to talk about Jesse Ventura again because Jesse Ventura is a very courageous figure, and he has been throughout his career in both media and politics. But the kind of onslaught that would head his way if he were to declare his candidacy within the Green Party, first of all, he's got to still win the Green Party primary. We are in the month of May. Florida, here where I live, just had their primary, or they're in the process of voting, which is pretty cool because you actually can vote online. And I think that might be the way forward, providing that there is, real security in place and the votes are tabulated accurately. These are all things we have to worry about and consider as we move forward in this very strange time that we're living through. So Ventura getting through that is going to be not a problem, but it's certainly going to be a bit of an obstacle. And then, of course, what will happen to him once he gets to a general election, and the same holds true for Justin Amash, but a little less so because those folks who are in the Democratic Party, and they'll look at Amash as taking votes from Trump, so they won't be upset about Justin Amash, but they will be absolutely crazed with rage about Jesse Ventura because Ventura does a couple of things. Number one, he presents himself as somebody who, quite honestly, is going to not take any crap from anybody. And they can come after him 7 ways to Sunday, and I think it's going to be like trying to get something to stick to Teflon. It just ain't going to happen. Jesse can stand up to just about anyone. He's articulate enough. He's educated enough on issues where, again, he would be a masterful debater against a Biden and a Trump. So you probably will never see Jesse Ventura on the debate stage. Although, see, I look at this as what Ross Perot tried to do in 1992, splitting the electorate in 3 different ways. Ross got almost 20% of the vote. That, I don't think, we haven't seen that happen again. And the Democrats weren't all that upset about Ross Perot because he was definitely appealing to the populist wing that has resided inside the Republican Party for decades and used to reside inside the Democratic Party until they got a taste of power, and then they decided that they didn't really need working class voters. This would be a game changer because you'd have a guy advocating for the working class. You'd have somebody who understands climate change. You'd have somebody who understands civil liberties. So this would be a very dangerous combination of things. And there are a lot of old school liberals out there who would just love to see a true anti-war voice in this campaign, somebody who fought in the military, somebody who is a professional wrestler for a number of years and the governor of a state and has been a political commentator and a sharp and astute one since. So his candidacy represents, I hate to use this term, an existential threat to the two-party establishment in a way that will wind up the people inside the national security state to a point where they will go on high alert and they will figure out ways to derail his candidacy. So I know this is a bit of naysaying here. This is a bit of some of the stuff that I tend to get on other people for. I'm just trying to give folks sort of a blueprint for what's coming. Because if Ventura does successfully get into this, if you think Jill Stein had a rough time of things, Ventura is about 10 times the strength of a Jill Stein because of his name ID. And I'm not, I'm not saying it's because he's a man and he's a tough man and so forth, because that would be, I'd be implying that men have an easier time of this than women. And that might be true and it might not be true, but that's not the reason. The reason is Jesse is a formidable figure. In fact, those of you who liked Tulsi Gabbard, who happens to be a woman, even though you wouldn't have known that during the campaign because it was never talked about, because identity politics did not apply to Tulsi Gabbard. All right. Again, you'll probably get the label, he's an older white guy. So maybe you shouldn't vote for him because he's an older white guy. Howie Hawkins, who is the leading candidate right now within the Green Party, if Jesse weren't declaring and weren't getting in, is also an older white guy. And I think this is a lesson for everyone that identity politics is just a bad idea at every level, because it basically says, well, we can't have this candidate even though they're the best candidate, and they would advocate on behalf of all these people who have been marginalized. Doesn't matter what skin color they have, doesn't matter. It was a true kind of Martin Luther King revelation that it doesn't matter. And so I think Jesse Ventura would appeal to voters across the political spectrum: Republicans, Democrats, independents, civil libertarians, just plain old libertarians. I mean, you've got Justin Amash over there doing his thing, and I think he's also an interesting character in all this, and I'll be addressing him. If Jesse doesn't happen for some reason, I may start to focus some attention over on Justin. Economic policy, it's going to be an issue for me because I don't see the libertarians actually doing anything. And I've said this in a number of videos. They're going to talk about the free market, how that's going to fix everything. And just if we get rid of the Federal Reserve, and then you've got all these other banks out there, like I've said, that's not going to be enough. It's not going to be enough to do like slight tinkering with monetary policy when, you've got banking institutions that are monetizing debt and essentially circulating digital currency like we can't even imagine. So I am more for the populist vision, which says take care of the workers, take care of the people first, because again, they're not going to get any benefits from these larger corporations and these banking institutions who've essentially sold everybody out so they can become, predatory lenders. And that's been going on for multiple generations now. So a lot is at stake. And if Ventura doesn't get in, it's because he's made a personal calculation that his life might not be worth sacrificing. He's 68 years old. He's not as old as Biden or Trump or Bernie for that matter. He's young in comparison. And then even Elizabeth Warren and some other people who are out there who are going to be supposedly part of this, administration for Biden, if that actually occurs. A lot of talk about Kamala Harris, and was it Stephanie Abrams, I think her name is. She didn't even win an election down in Georgia or whatever, but yet she's going to be the VP. Okay, with a guy who right now could win the presidency and then say, gee, I've got to resign because I can't function. I'm not cognitive. I don't have any cognitive skills in order to continue. And this is 320 million people, and we've picked Trump against Biden. So Ventura, a lot of people would just say, well, at least Ventura is coherent. He's articulate. He's held office as a governor, so he's been in an executive position, which I think is really important. He's been in charge of his state's National Guard. So he's had kind of like CEO or commander-in-chief experience. which is really important. That's another thing that none of the other Green Party candidates can even touch. So he is going to be a target like we've never seen before. The Russian stuff, it's going to get deep, it's going to get ugly. He's worked at RT America for the last couple of years on a show called The World According to Jesse. He's just going to get an incredible amount of grief from these elites who are just going to turn their nose and look down on this guy and say, you know, there's no way. They'll bring up all this pro wrestling stuff too all the time about how, and yet we've got what, a reality TV show host as the current president. So Trump set the bar pretty low, and so Jesse is way over that bar because he's been a politician, he's been a celebrity, he's an author, and he's a thoughtful guy. And when he talks, people listen. He's like the E.F. Hutton of advice. I mean, he is just out there and ready to go. So in any event, I wanted to throw this video onto YouTube because I believe that there is going to be incredible pressure on Ventura coming from various places, much like they threatened Ross Perot's family, and everybody thought Perot was a lunatic, and they thought he had lost his mind, but Ross Perot was telling the truth. And, you know, you learn that like 25 years later, you go, oh, yeah, now that what we're seeing, I'm sure that they did not want him getting into the Oval Office when they had their either their supposed left choice or right choice. They didn't want a populist choice. They didn't want the people's choice. Ventura has an opportunity to build the Green Party and to really change the trajectory of our politics right now in 2020. And I don't think we should, I don't know, I think we should take advantage of this rather than, you know, saying, you know, Tulsi 2024 or whoever else you think is going to come along to actually infiltrate the Democratic Party and make it so it's not a corrupt institution. It's not going to happen. It's probably never going to happen in our lifetimes. So we have to build something, and it's got to be new. It's got to be in another party. And I think the Green Party is perfectly positioned to be the party of Jesse Ventura and the future of a real populist uprising in the United States. So that's my video. Thanks for watching. I had a new Patreon member sign up who just was this was a really cool thing. So I want to thank this nice lady who signed on and said that she loved the content here. Again, you can help me by doing that. Also, PayPal, one-time donations at davidjspurrier@gmx.com. You can do multiple donations at that. But I'm just saying, if you want to not have a recurring payment, you can go over to PayPal and do it there. All right, I'm done. Thanks for watching, and we'll check in again very soon. So stay tuned for more content.